Ugly female leads in video games.
Hi guys, it's me.
Wait, his webcam looks nice now. Wait, what did he do? He changed it.
And today we're going to be talking about some drama. We're going to be discussing the new games that got announced at the Game Awards.
Oh, joy.
I watched the show. I thought it was great. I had a good time. But a lot of people didn't. And guess what? It's for the two main games that got announced there. The Witcher 4 and also Intergalactic. Now, both of these games, I think, had a lot of discourse surrounding them. We're going to talk about that discourse. And we're also going to talk about what that discourse implies with people that have become increasingly against, at war with, reality. And this, every single time that reality hits them in the face, there are a lot of Twitter threads about it because people are not happy. Guess what? If you spend all day on the internet, you usually have a distorted view of what the world looks like. And even to a certain extent, I'm sure so do I, but it seems like these people are even worse than I am. So anyway, let's go ahead and, at the beginning, I want to talk about one thing before we get into either of the games, actually. Let's talk about subjective opinions. So anybody can not like or like a video game.
Guys, I'm not gonna lie. My mom just walked into the room and turned my volume up. My mom stomped into the room. I heard the door open, which is why I turned my head. And then my mom just walked up, reached over my shoulder, placed her hand onto my mixer and just pushed the dial all the way up.
For a reason that they want.
It's so loud.
They don't have to justify this. They don't have to explain it. They don't have to debate it or argue it with anybody else. So if you do or you don't like any video game,
it's so loud.
You should never feel like you're obligated to defend that opinion or not, because it is your own subjective opinion and you have every right to it and nobody can take that away from you. So I just want to make that very clear, because there have been so many people talking about how, this person shouldn't be having this opinion. You shouldn't be saying this. You shouldn't care about this. Well, guess what? Some people do. Too fucking bad.
Yep.
Anyway, let's talk about The Witcher 4. Now, The Witcher 4.
Ooh, The Witcher 4. Actually, there's an entire thread on this. Someone I followed on Twitter. They love lore. That's their whole thing, tabletop and lore. And they did a long piece on The Witcher 4, the whole series thing. The thing is I don't know if it's bad. We don't know yet. We'll find out when it comes. I think it does deviate from the canon of the lore of The Witcher. Again, I'm not the biggest Witcher fan. I didn't finish 3, and I watched the show and I didn't read the books. So that's a little bit of context. I'm not a hardcore. This is all stuff I've read. So this is all lore that I've read from places because I was interested in the lore, but I didn't actually read the source material. So, again, this is kind of secondhand. But it's going to depend on how they actually explain her becoming a Witcher, because they already broke away from the lore. Yeah.
With Witcher 3, one of the best-selling games in the last 10 years, had a male protagonist. The new game has a female protagonist. If you understand the story, which at least I kind of do, I understand at least enough of it to see why the new female protagonist is the one carrying on the story. Now, this, however, has caught a lot of people off guard, and it's frustrated a lot of people because I think that there has been a growing trend that people are observing of genres and different IPs that have had a male lead that's being replaced by a female lead.
I had a conversation with someone about this earlier today. So I am kind of neutral, and the other person was very pro Ciri being the new character. And we had a discussion about it. And they were saying oh, well, Ciri is already a really powerful character, which is true. So the thing is there's a lot of people saying that oh, she's they're making a woman a powerful character or whatever. It's she was already really OP. In the story of the Witcher, she's already ridiculously OP. In fact, I heard that she was actually so ridiculously OP that there's no way they could have possibly made a good game about her. So the whole thing is, it depends on how it's implemented, right? I think a lot of the complaints I've seen is people saying oh, we're not upset that she's a new character. We're upset that they literally made her a Witcher, and that she could have been Witcher adjacent with some Witcher abilities, but her being full Witcher, it doesn't make sense in terms of the lore. And again, we can look into the lore later about it, but the problem is that there's so little trust between adaptation and fan base. Fan base does not trust adapters anymore. All of them are basically trust bankrupt when it comes to the fan bases. Nobody trusts them to care of whatever it is that they're adapting No one trusts them at all. And because of that, it's like people are automatically skeptical when it comes to like a new adaptation. They're like, oh, okay, we see where this is going. Here we go. It's like that Grand Theft Auto meme, like, here we go again, right? Because we have seen like what they've done to like all of like different beloved IPs, and it's like nobody trusts that they're going to be faithful and like actually do things for the right reason. So it's not that gamers are upset that there's a girl character replacing Geralt. Like, I don't think that it in of itself is necessarily the problem. The problem is people don't trust that they're doing it for the right reasons. Does that make sense?
And I think also, this is, again, it goes into my first point about people being at war with reality, because I've got to tell you guys, gender is a massive barrier with relatability. It just is. And that doesn't mean that that's the case with everybody. I'm sure there's going to be people.
Well, I don't necessarily think that's all of it, because the thing is guys, let's be real, guys, like, people love staring at Lara Croft's ass. Like, let's be real. Like, even when it wasn't like, you know, it was like low poly and shit. Like, people still were fine with that. I don't think guys necessarily are like, girl main character, ew. I don't think that's a thing. That's not the problem. The problem, again, is the lack of trust. They're saying like, oh, you're doing this because you hate us. Because they say it out loud. They say that they hate men out loud and that men should be replaced with strong women. They say this out loud. So it's like, obviously, like, when it happens, people are like, is that why you're doing it? Because you fucking hate us? Like, that's what guys are saying. Has nothing to do with this. Even me, you know, as a woman, like, I don't like it either. I don't think it has anything to do with that, really. To be honest, I don't. Because nobody complained about, like, Lara Croft. Nobody complained about Samus from, you know, Metroid. Nobody cares about these things.
That, you know, can't understand abstract ideas, so they have to comment and say, that's not what I think. Well, that's nice. But I think that in a general sense it is. I think gender is a massive barrier to relatability. So if you take a character that people relate to and they can see themselves in, and you change its gender, you do fuck with a lot of people's vision of the game and of the story.
So, like, specifically with The Witcher, that could be specifically true. A lot of, like, people on the internet, especially, like, gamers, are, like, really antisocial, right? In general. Geralt was kind of, like, very stoic, and he was, like, he kind of, like, he's also, like, not really, like, super, like, into people, and I think that was pretty relatable.
I think that's just how it is, and you can disagree with that, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go away. I think it is very, very, very.
And yeah, he was also, like, a very iconic character. Like, he's, like, I love him. He's very hot.
Very much the truth. And so a lot of people are unhappy about this, and they also thought that Ciri is uglier because if you compare her model in game for The Witcher,
I don't think she looks uglier, honestly. I don't think she looks uglier enough to, like, really make a difference. It almost looks like almost the same to me, like, from what I've seen. Like, it didn't seem like that big of a difference. It looked like slight, like, age up or something, like slightly like more age, but like not really that bad. I think most people, there's a lack of trust and they're lashing out at literally everything they can hit. Does that make sense? It's fucking AoE at this point. People are so fed up. They're like, nuke the entire thing. Fuck it. I don't care anymore.
For The Witcher 3, and then you look at The Witcher 4, she does look a bit older, and it's a CGI trailer, so there's a lot more detail put into it. It looks more realistic. Now, my personal opinion, I have actually personally dated a Polish girl with a big nose, so I think that she's fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else does. If you think she's ugly, you don't want to play the game because of that, that's fine. That's what.
Dead gamers, shots fired at Poland? Wait, what?
I personally don't think so, and I think that CD Projekt Red has earned a degree of my trust with how well they've handled Cyberpunk and also The Witcher 3, that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to really, really hope that the game is in fact actually good. Yep. So we'll have to wait until...
Listen, guys, we're not the same. Everyone's worried about, like, Ciri looking, according to them, uglier. I'm like, is the gameplay going to be actually good this time? Because I played The Witcher 3 and the fights were fucking boring. I'm sorry. It was freaking boring. Like, it's just me. It was boring as fuck. I like the song though. If the gameplay, the combat is the same as The Witcher 3, I'm hard pass. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't care if they have like the hottest waifu like there. Like I'm gonna get bored after like 30 minutes.
So we see her in-game model and we see a little bit more of the story before I go ahead and start complaining and crying about this all too much. So there's that. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is the growing issue with a lot of games that are adding characters that are unattractive, unappealing, and unlikable. And oftentimes it's all three, unfortunately, but many times it's in fact just one. And so what's happened is that I think that a lot of studios have fallen prey to this idea that players and people want to have realistic characters. I don't actually think that...
No, like there has been a decline in imagination. And I really think that when I talked about it in that previous video, I think it was, I don't remember what video it is. Maybe the editor will put it on screen. It seems like nowadays people cannot relate with a character unless it literally is them. You can relate to characters that are not exactly like you. You can relate to aliens. You don't need to be one for one exactly like the other character to like make a connection with like their problems and like your problems.
This is true. I think that this is a
so you can also, it's the decline of human relation that people couldn't relate to any character outside of their own avatar. So
kind of human relationship. So you can, it's also it's the decline of human relation that people couldn't relate to any character outside of their own avatar. Something like that. Yeah, like a self-insert or something like that.
Created by journalists, and it's created by people that write about video games, talk about them. But the truth is that I think most people, they actually do care about what a character looks like to an extent, and the people that don't care are irrelevant anyway. Because let's go ahead and use a little bit of logic. So why would you ever put a ugly character in a video game? I think that this serves no one.
I don't think that's true. It depends on if it serves the story, right? So is it a relevant thing that's used in the story as a plot point? For instance, like let's use like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, for instance. He's like disfigured for a reason. It like serves the story, right? He's not like that just cause.
I don't think it serves anybody, because for all the people that don't care whether the character looks good or not, well then those people are going to play or not play the game anyway, and the reasoning for that is going to be completely independent of the character's appearance. And for the people that are going to play a game or do care about a character's appearance, and they use that as a criteria of whether they like the character or not, and by the way, a lot of people say that people don't do this. If people didn't do this, microtransaction cosmetics would not be making billions of dollars, okay? Just such a completely stupid, delusional thing to say. They would not be able to sell all these cosmetics if people did not care about how they looked in video games.
Thank you for the follow shopping cart.
That being said, and there's a million other examples I can use, like gacha games, etc. But I think that let's just look at cosmetics as a meta thing, and then that immediately proves that people do care. Maybe you don't, but again, abstract sample, there are many people who do. And for the people who do care, I do think that having a character that is unappealing, unlikable, or just in general not something that people want to see, that's just unrelatable. I think that's another really component, not necessarily what people don't want to see, but just in one way or another unrelatable. I think this serves literally zero purpose. And in fact, all it does is it serves to hurt the game. So let me explain why. Again, so you have all the people who are, they don't care about the way the character looks, they don't give a shit about it, they're going to play the game based off of the gameplay. Well, they've already made their decision, and the way the character looks, stated by them, is that they don't care. So then you only have the remaining people.
Okay, so for the most part, it's true. However, there is a small subset of people, they specifically want that. Like very, very small minority. And the thing is developers pander to that minority. Do you see what I'm saying? There is a very small percentage of people that are like, I'm going to play it because of that. But that's a very, very small percentage of people, and they're constantly like sucking their ass all the time. Like developers, I don't know why. They go after like the really small minority of people just to feel better about themselves or something. I don't fucking know.
Who do care about how a character looks. Now, do you think that more people care if a character is attractive or unattractive? Do you think that more people want a character inside of the group of people who care about the way a character looks? Are there more people inside of that group that want the character to be attractive?
Melchior the White says it's because they're the loudest. Yes, it's true. And I think there's people that want to feel good about themselves by getting the approval of the minority to feel like, oh, like, see, we care. It's like weird. It's like a weird, like, how do I explain it? It's like a weird masturbatory cuck relationship.
And this is also true for guys as well. I don't really think that anybody wants to play, well, maybe some people do. Many people probably don't want to play a version of a fat neckbeard brony wearing a fedora with a My Little Pony t-shirt with cargo pants and socks and sandals on, and this guy is going to be the one who saves the world from God, right?
People would do it, though. If they had a character creator, there would be people
He's going to have to destroy God. And so this is true cross-gender, but it's also another big issue, what I was saying before, about people that are living in opposition to reality. A lot of people are in the mindset that these things are not relevant. These things do not matter. And again, they don't matter to a lot of people, but they matter to enough people for this to make a difference. And I also hear the narrative that these are things that are only held by a small minority of people. Only a small minority of people actually think this. And I have a challenge to everybody who thinks that.
Thinks what? Thinks that people don't want cute characters?
If you think that all of the people that dislike whatever game it is, whether I think the Intergalactic game is probably the one that's most worst received.
Yeah.
I want you to find me a reveal trailer of a video game that has a less than 50% like ratio that turned out to be a success for a studio. Let's find out.
For the trailer.
And you know what?
point.
I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of them. And so what I think is happening is that you have people that want to believe something so bad that it's caused them to distort reality into imagining that it's actually real. And so what's happened is that a lot of these people are so fixated around making sure that the game reinforces some worldview that they have that they are unwilling to look at the rational implications of what is actually something that players want to see.
Yeah.
And this goes into the idea of genres. Now, I'm sorry, guys, but I guess I have to be the bearer of bad news. But if you're making a video game and it's set in space, you're a bounty hunter, you've got guns, and you fight things with laser swords, the majority audience of that game is going to be a bunch of fucking guys.
Yeah.
And that's it. So if you make a game like that and you don't...
I think sci-fi is more of a guy genre. There's a lot of girls that are into fantasy, but I think sci-fi specifically is like mostly dudes.
Appeal to that target audience, you are going to have a very hard time selling that. And it doesn't matter whether you think this should be true or not. I think that the averages speak for themselves. You can look at games like Concord, Dragon Age, Veilguard, or...
I bet you there's more girls that are into Genshin than they are into Honkai Star Rail.
Any of the other games that have come out recently that have tried to take a non-traditional approach in telling a story that is meant for a majority male audience. And I think that guess what happens? When that happens, well, a lot of people get frustrated, disappointed, and they think to themselves, you know what? I don't think this game's meant for me. I'm not going to play it. And that's what happens. And so I feel...
Well, the thing that's annoying about that is that there are also women that are into that. Even if like the majority like target audience is like, it's mostly like men in that audience, it doesn't mean that there aren't women that do want to play it. And then if you fuck it up to like pander to like women that aren't even fans of like that genre, you're taking it away from those women. And the thing is like, well, you don't really, and this is the thing that also drives me kind of nuts. You don't see this kind of thing going the other way at all. You don't see people saying like, oh, we need to have more men playing, dress up, horse simulator number 2000, where you own a horse and stables and you dress up and you go around and you do a horse show where you do tricks on your horse.
Like, how many points on a graph do you need to be able to draw a line? I think that it's very obvious that these things clearly do matter a lot to players, and this is not enough of a small minority for it not to be taken seriously. And also, I think that the implication is that a minority of people actually care about these things, whereas I think the actual reality is that a majority of people do. It's just that the amount of people that dislike it on social media might be a little bit higher, but it is more or less a respective sample size. Because I've never really seen a case, as I said before, where a game was massively hated on, like the reveal trailer, and then it turned out to be a massive...
And we know that like it's a modern trend of reveal trailers being 100% aesthetic. The reveal trailers nowadays, and like I complained about this like during the Game Awards, they have nothing to do with gameplay. They don't ever tell you like what the game is actually about. All the trailers are is just like, wow, look at the aesthetic of the game. It never actually goes into the gameplay, so you can't even judge it based on gameplay. So these people are judging it like 100% based on the aesthetic.
of success. I just don't really think this happens. First impressions are really important, and it matters a lot if you make them or not. And so a lot of developers are trying to design games and make games for everybody. They're trying to make the game for the target audience of anybody can play this game. It's going to appeal to everyone. Well, unless you're playing Tetris or you're playing some other sort of abstract game like that, this is just simply not the case. There are going to be games that are more appealing to men versus games that are more appealing to women. The same
and to weebs. I want games that are appealing to weebs like me.
There's music that way, the same as there's, movies that way, manga that way. I mean, manga, they do it right. They literally have names for it. Shonen is literally made for young guys. So that...
And my mom. My mom fucking loves shonen anime, dude.
That's basically the way that they handle it, and I think that they're doing a lot better than comics.
What's funny is, like, I try to watch early stuff with my mom, but she doesn't want to watch it. My mom likes kind of action-y stuff. Like, my mom's into, like, Kimetsu no Yaiba, One Piece, Fairy Tail. She's into that.
Books now, last time I checked. So the big issue is that people are trying to design and create a narrative that is based off of a worldview that doesn't actually exist. And what's happening is that you see games like Intergalactic and you see games like Concord or Dragon Age or whatever, where they are designed with this perspective that, well, anybody can relate to anybody. And of course this can be true to an extent, but it's not true on a law of averages. And I think that that's what's really happened, is that you have people that have convinced themselves and gaslighted themselves into thinking that the only way that you can make this game and make it successful is if you make it appeal to everybody, but in the case of appealing to everyone, you actually, in fact, appeal to no one at all. Just
one problem with this, too, is that they create these... and this is why indie games are kicking so much ass, is because these big, like, AAA, like, theatrical... there was, like, a thing on I don't know if you guys saw, it was like on X, there was like this whole conversation about how in the Intergalactic trailer, she puts like a jacket on. Everyone's like, oh, wow, look at that. Look how good she put that jacket on. And it's like, dude, nobody gives a fuck. Bro, nobody cares. None of the actual gamers give a shit how good the animation of putting the jacket on is. They want the game to be good, okay? And the thing is these game studios are fucking off so much on shit that has nothing to do with gameplay. Like, say you're a game studio. You have, like, this budget, right? You have to put your money somewhere. Where are you going to put it? Why would you put it into, like, maxed out, like, crazy accurate art when, like, nobody gives a fuck? Like, why would you do that and then make the gameplay and then not really focus on the gameplay? The gameplay is king. That's, like, the most important thing that you have to do. Gameplay, like, how the game feels, how intuitive it is, like, all of those things matter far more than... like a person's jacket looking like pristine when they put it on. You have these studios that have like massive budgets, right? And it's so inflated. They spend all of this money on like bullshit that's not really that important, but then it looks really nice and makes everyone feel good about themselves. And then as the game is approaching, like, guys, we spent like fucking millions on this game. Like, the scope gets so big that they're like, can we even pay for this back with like the amount of gamers that exist? Like, are we gonna get our money's worth out of it? So like they start to like reach for like other demographics, right? People aren't like, they have no focus when it comes to their core audience, right? They're like, their core audience is so broad. It's the kind of thing of the more you tighten your grip, or the more you try to like hold everything, the more it slips through your fingers, right? Like, you can't like hold everything and it's gonna fall out, and then soon everything falls out of your arms. They do not have an idea of like who their target audience is. They have no focus on it.
It's like Concord did. Just a second, too, right?
Damn, what is that, Asmond? Coke?
So, what I think is going to happen is that these games are going to come out, the reception around them is going to become more negative, and the games will not sell well. And I think this has been proven time and time again. And ultimately, for all the people...
That's why AAA just keeps losing. They keep losing. Bite off more than they can chew, overinflated budget, like, don't know the target audience, and multiple issues.
People that like good gameplay, they're not going to care about this. That's totally fine. But I think that there are enough people out there that also, there's another component to this as well.
Oh my God, Solo.
When people view or they perceive some degree of like messaging, or they perceive some degree of like social politics in a video game, it immediately takes them out of the immersive experience the game is trying to create, and it makes them think about the game in
the problem is that it is ham-fisted in there, and it is not nuanced at all. again, wasn't Metaphor Fantasia or whatever? Wasn't that game like really political and like nobody gave a shit about it? Am I wrong? And that's because the messaging, the moral messaging and the politics, they are underneath the game. So there's the game that exists and then the story, and it's interwoven into the story. It's not on top of it. And in a lot of these other games, they put the messaging on top of everything else. And it's like right there. You open the box and the messaging's right on top, right? And that's why people don't like it. It's how in your face it is and how judgy and preachy it is without actually having anything to do with the actual game.
The context of real life contemporary social politics. And I think this
I remember, sorry, I know I keep pausing. There was a show I was watching. It was like that really, really bad fucking Crunchyroll show. And my brother was telling me about it, and he was like, yeah, it's about like this adventurer girl, and she's like learning to like be an adventurer at the school. And I was like, wow, that sounds up my fucking alley. So I went to go watch it, right? High Guardian Spice, that's the name of it. And I'm like watching this show, right? Out of nowhere, they start talking about how like this character is trans and stuff. And like they start going to like the whole lore of them being trans. I was like, what the fuck does this have to do with, like, I've known this person for like 5 seconds and they're already going into this. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, hi, how you doing? Fist up your ass. That's what it feels like every time you like you see these things, you know? It's like,
and it makes people more skeptical and less positive about these video games in a general way. And I think also this happens with movies and TV shows as well, but in a lot of cases it just happens with video games the most, because that's what I talk about the most. But anyway, with a lot of these characters, anytime that I see a character that's added into a video game and the character is not attractive or the character is meant to be unappealing to a majority of people, or it's not, it's like doing one of those things where it's like, oh, well, all the people that don't like this are bigots or racist or something like that. You can call people that all you want, but that's never going to convince them to buy your game. And I think that the people that do that, anytime I see that in a trailer, I automatically assume the game is going to be complete trash. And you think to yourself, what do you mean? Like, that just means the character's ugly. Like, who cares? What about the gameplay? Let me think about it like this. If making an ugly character, as we've already established, actually is at best a negative or a net zero effect, and in almost all cases,
this is a good point, that basically the game studios are sabotaging themselves for no reason.
Is a negative effect.
There's no reason to do it.
Why would anybody do that? And I think that the mindset of putting things into a game that players actively don't like, that is more important than the actual enjoyment of the customer, I think that mindset is going to permeate the entire game.
That's true. It usually comes with it, right? Because the person who does that is already incapable. They're already incapable of loving the gamers in the first place because they already have a baseline level of disrespect for their audience.
I don't think that it's just going to begin and end at character selector or at character creation. I think it's going to be the entire game is going to have problems because it is fundamentally at face value, literally at face value, not designed for an audience. And I feel like
100%.
I know what I do. I really feel like, so I see people getting mad about this, especially getting mad at me. I'm just saying, boys, let's wait and see. Let's see what happens. I wonder if the thing that's happened every single time is going to happen again. Oh, wow. I don't even know what to say. It's amazing. Yeah, well, I don't know. The suspense is killing me. I wonder if the game that everybody seems to hate is going to come out and be hated. And so people have been increasingly walling themselves off inside of their own echo chambers and trying to create their own reality. And I think this is the reason why people want censorship on social media a lot. The reason why is because these realities that they create are very, very fragile. Yep. And so the moment that one of these realities actually, butts up against an actual, the real world,
the anti-magic toxin,
a real experience, well,
being perceived.
Then these people are going to be writing posts and talking and complaining about it and saying, oh, we'll do better next time. The reality is that a lot of people don't think that way. And I think that you've had the internet that's allowed so many people to effectively remove themselves from reality and construct their own in place of it. And I think that video game discourse is a very good microcosm of that. But you're seeing this with politics. You're seeing this with, like geopolitics. You're seeing it with social issues. You're seeing it it with everything. And people have become increasingly more disconnected from reality because the internet has allowed them to do that. And it actually does a really good job at that. And so what I think is going to keep happening is that these people will continue butting up against reality and becoming very, very frustrated and upset. And I think it's very funny because I also believe they will never learn. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. I think
they can't. It'd be like the equivalent of because I think that a lot of that mentality is religious, and that's the reason why people can't learn, because if you basically crush their religion, it's like crushing far more than just the facts of life. It's crushing like on an identity, like on a faith level. It would be like if aliens existed and they came down and they told everybody, like, by the way, guys, yeah, you know, like all the religion, we just made that up. Get trolled. If they did that, if that sort of thing happened, like it would be shattering for like a lot of religious people, right? And I think reality coming hard on people that have like this religious belief in, you know, identity politics and stuff like that, it hits just as hard.
Witcher 4, we're gonna have to wait and see. I think with Intergalactic, the game, as I said, you know, the graphics for the game look incredible. I don't really think the game's going to do very well. You make a space bounty hunter video game and you have like a bald girl who isn't conventionally attractive. I don't think you're really gonna get that male audience that those games are really.
It's a lack of trust. If this game came out of nowhere and like without like the current landscape, right? Like let's say this game did come out like this and it didn't have all that stigma behind it, I think it would be less of a deal. But right now, the amount of trust in developers and in adapters, creators, like video people are holding the keys in the gaming industry. The distrust is so high that people just automatically assume it's going to suck.
Intended for. I don't think you're going to get them. And so we're going to have to wait and see, but that's my prediction. And I think also, you know, you can get mad at the people that are saying and being rude about it or whatever, but my best advice is to just wait and see. And I feel like, again, the thing that's happened every single time will probably happen again. So anyway, guys, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are in the comments, and I figured I'd make this video since I've got the day off and I want to talk about this, and that's pretty much how I feel about it. So anyway, guys, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Nice, pretty good video. Thank you, Asmond. I should start making videos like this. That way I can actually like create like stuff rather than just reacting. I did one video like this. It was a video where I was like, I was playing TCG Shop Simulator and I was jumping around on top of Table Simulator. It was that video where I just talked about stuff for a bit. Anyway, I'll link you guys the video link.